Welcome into the LSU Sports Insider podcast. It is Thursday, November the 6th. I'm Zach Ewing, joined today by Koki Riley and Reed Darcy, part of our LSU coverage team at The Advocate and theadvocate.com. And it is LSU Alabama week. And as our lead beat writer, Wilson Alexander, just tweeted an hour ago or so, it feels like the least buzzworthy LSU Alabama game in decades, if not ever. No one is talking about this game. It is all LSU coaching. At least no one in Baton Rouge. People in Tuscaloosa probably are. But it is all LSU coaching search. It is all LSU athletic director. It is all the future of this program. And then, oh yeah, the Tigers are playing the Tide in 48 hours.
Maybe the game after they fired Ed Orgeron wasn't exactly very hyped, but I think it had a little more attention than this one. Like, Koki, what's driving down the interest in this game is because everything with the LSU coaching search is so new, and all this drama and chaos is spilling over into the new week.
Yeah, it's just what happens when, again, it's pretty simple. It's what happens when there's a coaching search, and not just a coaching search, but a athletic director search and a president search. And there's just so many like big picture things that are happening right now. And given the state of where the season was at even before the firing, that's why this game has absolutely no juice, at least locally.
And Rab has talked about this too in the modern era of college football. And by modern, I mean the 12-team playoff era. It's a pass-fail grade for a team like LSU. You either made the playoff and you passed, or you didn't and you failed. And because LSU lost its third game 2 weeks ago to Texas A&M, they're pretty much, I mean, mathematically, I suppose there's still a chance, but it's a very, very slim chance that LSU makes the playoffs. And so that has to do with it too, where it's like, well, what are they even playing for? I mean, the Gator Bowl doesn't get anybody's juices flowing anymore. And so I think that's part of it too. Now, LSU does have a chance to play spoiler, which we'll talk about. Certainly could put a big dent in Alabama's playoff hopes, which would make Tiger fans happy. But we do need to get to just a short update on the coaching search and the athletic director situation before we dig into LSU Alabama. And before we do that, I do want to let you know that the LSU Insider is brought to you by Jerry Lane Cadillac. Command the road in a Cadillac, where luxury, power, and presence come together. Experience it today at Jerry Lane Cadillac. Okay, so the coaching search news du jour is really athletic director news du jour right now, and that is, we all thought on Monday's pod, that Verge Ausberry was going to conduct this coaching search. That has not changed. Then Tuesday, Verge Ausberry was like apparently named permanent athletic director, or at least Verge Ausberry thought Verge Ausberry was going to be the permanent athletic director. It turns out that there is some confusion with that, as there is with many things around this situation.
Yeah, so Wade Rouge is officially inducted as the new president on Tuesday.
Yes.
Right? And then later that day, it's reported by us and many others that Verge Ausberry is going to be the full-time AD. But then, yesterday, Piper Hutchinson of the Louisiana Illuminator.
Shout out Piper. We love Piper.
Interviews Rouge one-on-one. And Rouge is basically like, well, we took the interim tag off of him, but I'm not quite sure what his future holds or what the athletic department future holds. Did he say he's the acting AD, or was that the other interview?
So that was in the interview he did to WWL. He said that he's not the interim AD, but he is the acting AD, which,
it's the same exact thing.
Which is the same thing. So he wasn't exactly choosing his words very carefully, and he created a lot of confusion with what he was saying about Verge Ausberry and the athletic director situation at LSU. So by the time this episode probably comes out, maybe it gets cleared up. But the point is that one of his first things he did as LSU's president, he hasn't even officially started yet, by the way, was to make this decision about the athletic director. And then he created all kinds of confusion around this yesterday. So we're just looking for answers and looking for some clarity for someone to explain exactly what happened and what's going on, and put their name on it and go on the record and say, okay, here's what happened. Did Wade Rouge misspeak? Did he not misspeak? What exactly is going on? Will Verge be the athletic director after the coaching search, or is this just his job in the interim so he can find the coach? We don't know.
Here's the problem. If you are the new president of the LSU system, this cannot happen. If you misspeak, correct yourself. It's very easy. You have a platform. If you need it, you come out, you say, I misspoke. Verge Ausberry is the permanent athletic director. The longer you go without doing that, and as you mentioned, Reed, we're recording this Thursday morning. Maybe by Thursday afternoon, when you all watch this or listen to this, he's done that. Maybe so. And we're just looking at 48 hours of confusion for no reason. But to me, it seems that Wade Rouge, who's not the most experienced candidate that LSU could have hired, that the state could have hired to run the LSU system, but he has been around long enough to know that his words are going to have impact. And it feels like he chose those words intentionally to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but this feels like he's saying this coaching search is a trial for Verge Ausberry.
It feels like this guy's out of his depth. It feels like he doesn't really know. I actually kind of disagree. I don't really know I don't know if he knows how much weight that his words actually.
Maybe he does, because to your point, when you say stuff in Lake Charles, maybe people in Lake Charles care. Probably not very many other people care. When you say it in Baton Rouge, the whole state cares.
Well, it's just like the pressure of the situation. Like the guy just doesn't seem very prepared for it, given the way he's talking.
It's getting national attention. National people all across the country are paying attention to this LSU coaching search and what the president of the school is saying about the coaching search. Right? It's a national news topic. So you have to, when you're in this position, you have to choose your words very, very carefully. And if you misspeak, you have to correct yourself later on. And we're still waiting for that clarification. The whole point is that, we thought we had some answers and stability and some, alignment, the buzzword. We thought we had that here with the coaching search on Tuesday. And then 12 hours later, that's kind of all gone away. So it's whether it's, true or not, whether the whether it's really a mess or not, it's certainly what the perception is, and that's a problem for LSU and the coaching search in general.
This has become a public relations nightmare. There's nothing short of that, honestly.
Yeah, one of two things is true. Either Wade Rouge misspoke and doesn't realize that misspeaking is a big deal in this situation, which is a problem, or he meant to say what he said, and he's basically undermining Verge Ausberry as Verge Ausberry tries to conduct this coaching search, meaning that football coaching candidates are not even going to be sure who their boss is. Now, maybe to some of them that doesn't matter. We talked about that on Monday's episode, where if you're confident enough that you can come in and win, a winning football coach doesn't really have a boss at a university. He's his own boss. But if you're not, it's...
But I don't know. The bottom line is that if Verge Ausberry is doing the coaching search, and then you're going to evaluate his future after they hire a coach, then he's the interim AD. So you have to say that he is the interim AD if that's the reality of the situation. If he's going to be the AD after he hires the coach, then he's the permanent full-time AD.
It sounds like, to me at least, that someone told him to take the interim tag, so it looks like he's not going to be, so it looks like he's going to be the AD moving forward, right? So he does that, and then when a reporter actually challenges him on that, he actually spoke his mind about the situation. Maybe that's exactly how he feels, and he just took the interim AD tag off him because someone told him to take the interim AD tag off of him. But he doesn't really know the weight of the situation where he says, oh, we're going to think about this moving forward, right? Because, someone should have told him, even if you think that, don't say that. There's no benefit in saying that we're going to think about this guy's future moving forward. You can do it later, but saying it now only hurts the coaching search you have going on at the moment, right? You have to keep that perception that he's going to be the AD moving forward. That's the whole point of taking off the interim tag. It is it's a PR nightmare. That's how I feel.
It's semantics.
Yeah.
This does not mean LSU can't hire a winning football coach, but it's just making it unnecessarily difficult. And I saw a social post from somebody this week. I can't remember who it was. But after the news came out that Verge Ausberry was going to be the permanent athletic director, the post was basically, and just like that, LSU has alignment. Let's go get the best coach that there is. LSU does not just like that have alignment. This is not that easy.
It was a step in the right direction. But
it was the best thing that they had done since they started this process, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And then they went and stepped in the mud on it.
Lasted about 12 hours.
Right. So we'll see. Again, we're recording this late Thursday morning. Maybe by the time that we publish this Thursday afternoon, it's already been clarified. I don't know. But in the meantime...
by the way, I disagree with the take that this doesn't matter. I think this very much matters in terms of the coaching search, right? Like, yes, like when the coach is on campus, he becomes his own boss, especially if he wins enough. But like, given the candidates that they're looking at, you have to show strength. It's not just enough to say, oh, look at our recruiting base and look at the amount of money that we have, look at the ceiling of the program. Like, that's not enough to get Kenny Dillingham to leave his very comfortable situation at Arizona State. Clark Lee to leave his very comfortable situation at Vanderbilt. Brent Key to leave his very comfortable situation at Georgia Tech. Like, all these guys are at their alma maters in very comfortable situations and winning at their alma maters. Like, you got to do more than just say, oh, look at the ceiling of our program to get the candidates that you want to come here.
Correct. Let's say that there's, I don't know, just throw out a number, 6 candidates that would be possible successful candidates at LSU. All 6 of them are going to be difficult to get here anyway, because you have to offer them enough money / stability / prestige to leave their current job. You have to compete with Florida and Auburn and Penn State and all these other schools for them as well. And it's just difficult anyway. Now you might have taken that pool of 6 and 3 of them might say, forget that, I don't want to, and so now you're looking at only 3 candidates who would be successful here, and the chance of you getting the right one just lessens. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but I agree with you.
In my opinion, because of the situation, I have no idea who's going to take this job. I don't have a clue, because like a lot of the candidates that we're talking about are already in their good situations, and you have to show that you're in an even better situation. But clearly, with this mess, you're not in a better situation. And then the other guy who you could see just take the leap up and make that risk is John Summerall. But like, given his connections to Alabama and the Auburn job opening up, it's hard to call LSU the favorite in that situation.
He's going to have other options.
Yeah, this is why I have no idea who's going to take this job. I have no idea.
It is early. It's very early in the process. They don't need a coach for at least another month. But it's not off to a very good start. Given the fact that the governor got so involved last week, and now there's confusion over who's the athletic director. It's been a week and a half. It needs to stabilize a little bit in order for LSU fans, I think, to be confident that the right people are in place to hire the coach.
If I were someone in charge or making decisions at LSU, my immediate goal would be to have a week with no news come out about this. Just have a quiet week. Let's just go start the search. Let's not have any embarrassing headlines. Let's not have any school presidents or governors or anybody put their foot in their mouth. Let's just have a quiet week. That's what I think needs to be done right now.
But it's LSU.
Even at LSU, hopefully you can manage a quiet week or two. Because that's what's needed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so with that said, we'll move on for this episode. We're going to preview LSU Alabama. This will not be as long or as in-depth probably as some of our normal game previews, just given the situation. But it's still a big game. It's still LSU Alabama. It's an especially big game for the Crimson Tide guys. They're number 4 in the country. They are in position for a bye in the college football playoff. A loss would take them out of that position and suddenly put them in a precarious spot where they would need to probably beat Oklahoma and Auburn at the end of the year just to make the playoff. So this is a big game for Alabama. The game's at 6:30 p.m. Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. It's on ABC. I'm a YouTube TV subscriber too, so those of you out there,
don't get me started on that.
Like,
please,
just I don't know how much
Fubo
money.
Free trials.
I have 3 words for you. Free trial season. I don't know how much money that the big gurus at Disney and YouTube need, but I've given you enough of mine. So rant over. Betting line Alabama -10 via our friends at Caesar Sportsbook. A lot bigger than it was earlier, and what's interesting about that is that if you looked at look ahead lines before the season, this line was like 5.5. This is a big jump. Maybe it was even 4.5. A big jump, obviously, across the key number of 7, which is a huge number in the betting world, and all the way out to another key number of 10. There aren't any significant injuries. Whit Weeks is not causing a line movement of a touchdown. Like that, he's a good player. It's not happening. This is all based on, number 1, performance on the field. Alabama's been very good. LSU has not. And number 2, the chaos at LSU.
Yeah, it's the instability of the LSU program, right? So we don't really know what we're going to see from LSU this week. We don't know what to expect. And it's a bit of a dicey situation for a team like Alabama, a top 5 team, that kind of had a known commodity on its schedule in LSU before it fired Brian Kelly, but now with an interim coach who's approaching 2 weeks of practice, who's had time to prepare, who's looked like it's going to change some things about the offense, it's a bit of an unknown, and that's a bit of a scary thing for a team like Alabama that can't really afford another loss or two here down the stretch of the regular season. So it's like, well, what will we see from this LSU team? Are they going to be motivated? Usually these teams get a little bump in energy and
the interim bump, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Frank Wilson. Okay. This is a difficult question to answer, Koki, but are the vibes better than they were 2 weeks ago? Are they much better? How much of a difference does that make?
I mean, it's hard for them to be worse. So my guess is that they're probably a little bit better. And a lot of these players believe in Frank Wilson because you recruited a lot of them. So I would say the vibes are probably better. It seems like the energy is up. I kind of wrote about that for a story that came out in the advocate.com this morning about how he's really tried to work on like improving the energy, enthusiasm within the program. Braylon Moore even said himself that like the last few weeks, or really the first 8 weeks of the season, like the energy was lower than it should be. And that was kind of a damning indictment on Brian Kelly and the Brian Kelly era, in my opinion, for a player to just say that on the record. But anyway, I think that, I think they're going to run the ball a lot more. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that besides just the rah-rah, we're going to run the ball more quotes. Like, I mean, the interim coach is the running backs coach. The offensive coordinator is the run game coordinator. The new offensive coordinator, Alex Atkins, and he's also an offensive line coach. He wants that physicality. They're running 9-on-7 drills on practice on Tuesday. So I think they're going to run the ball a lot more for this offense, and maybe that can keep Alabama off the field, and Alabama has trouble running the ball themselves. So that's going to be kind of an interesting thing to sort of keep an eye out for as we head into this game.
And quietly, Zach, LSU has run the ball better in recent weeks, at least leading into the first half of the Texas A&M game. The running game disappeared in the second half as it spiraled away, but LSU was running the ball pretty well. They found something with Harlem Berry. He brought a lot of juice to the run game. He did a good job breaking tackles, creating his own yards. So I think they might have found something. The 3 games leading up to it, I believe it was LSU kind of averaged 5 yards per carry. Take the sacks away. Leading into the first half of the A&M game, so it can work. They found something, and now I think they'll lean into it a little bit more than they have in the past couple of years when they've just been dead last in the SEC in rush attempts. So that's one of the unknowns that Alabama is going to have to deal with. How often are they running the ball, and what exactly will they need to do to stop a rushing attack that could look a little different than it has been, and what they've put on film the first 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, that is the other part of the interim coach bump is not just the vibes. It's the fact that the other team doesn't know what you're going to do the first week. You haven't put anything on film under this coach. You're not making wholesale changes at this juncture of the season, but you did have a bye week. You can implement some stuff. And Alabama doesn't know. Kane Womack, their defensive coordinator, does not know what that's going to look like. And so maybe there's a chance for like an ambush.
And there's also the Michael Van Buren factor as well. Frank Wilson has spent the last week and a half trying to say, hey, we like Michael Van Buren. We might get him a little more involved. We might have a couple packages for him. So maybe you see that. That's a complete unknown. You haven't seen that at all. But I'm not sure how much we'll see of him. I think it would be smart for LSU to keep his red shirt and not burn that the last month of regular season. But it sounds like he could be a part of the offense in like a Taysom Hill kind of role for LSU.
They shouldn't burn his red shirt, and I don't really know what benefit it puts. I've never really been a big proponent of playing 2 quarterbacks in the game, honestly.
That just sounds like something you say just to make it seem like you're a wild card, and maybe it'll work.
I mean, maybe,
but we'll see. Speaking of that, let's dig into our injury report before we begin the breakdown in earnest. The injury report is brought to you by the Baton Rouge Clinic, your trusted healthcare provider in the heart of Baton Rouge. Whether you're in need of primary care, specialist services, or urgent care, the Baton Rouge Clinic has you covered with a team of dedicated and experienced professionals. Visit BatonRougeClinic.com to learn more or to schedule your appointment today. The Baton Rouge Clinic, caring for generations. Got our availability report last night. Weeks listed as questionable, but it sounds like that's actually trending probably more toward doubtful if you listen to what Frank Wilson says. And then the other one, Carius Kern, he's listed as probable, so he's trending the other way like he will play Saturday.
Yeah, so there's your left tackle, and you can keep Weston Davis on the right side, and it's still going to be it's still probably going to be an issue, but it's something to sort of keep an eye on.
And DJ Chester is your swing guy that comes in case one of them has to miss time. So that's a positive sign for LSU that they're going to have Carius Kern. Either way, the offensive line is probably going to really struggle, just like it did against Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. So it could be some issues for Garrett Nussmeier, just like it was before the coaching change.
Alabama's pass rush isn't as good as Texas A&M's, but I still think they can get to Nussmeier fairly easily in this game because of their tackle situation. Yeah.
Are you guys surprised Weeks is still out? It's been weeks.
A little bit, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's something that he first happened like at the very end of the Ole Miss game, and everything Brian Kelly said about it was just like a bone bruise in his ankle. So, I'm a little surprised that it's taken him this long. I think BK, before he got fired, said that they were trending toward getting him back for the Alabama game. So it's a little interesting that it has taken so long. Frank Wilson said that he's running in practice in a straight line, but it's not really he's not been able to do the change of direction kind of stuff that you need to do as a linebacker.
Yes, he said that in a very long-winded manner, but that's exactly what he said. Yes.
All right. Well, that is the injury report. We are going to break this game down further and give our LSU Alabama predictions right after this on the LSU Sports Insider podcast.
I think the biggest thing that separates us is our people. We have a really amazing staff that really care about their customers, really care about our product. At Jerry Lane Cadillac, we value trust and transparency above all else. We have a little bit of something for everyone, so whether it be the 2025 Escalade, any of the smaller crossover vehicles, the XT4, 5, and 6, we've also got a wide variety of new EVs, including the 2025 electric Escalade IQ. I think the product lineup right now is the best that it's ever been in Cadillac.
Did they ask you to do the commercial too?
Yeah, but they just gave me one line.
Bet like a Caesar. Like, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna tell them how Caesar's Sportsbook is just so easy to use that you can watch and bet thousands of sports events, even some NFL games.
They'll probably show us betting on our favourite players and teams at all the Vegas hotspots too.
Like, we have time for that montage.
I told him I couldn't do it.
They couldn't afford me.
You know how far I've gone, now I'm home again. I'm feeling more alive these days than I've ever been.
At the Baton Rouge Clinic, our sole focus is to provide exceptional healthcare for your entire family so that you can get back to doing what you love most. We are caring for generations.
You give me love.
And welcome back to the LSU Sports Insider podcast. Zach Ewing with Reed Darcy and Koki Riley on this Thursday. We are brought to you by Jerry Lane Cadillac. You can find the LSU Sports Insider on YouTube. We encourage you to leave your score prediction for LSU Alabama. It has to be on YouTube. We're going to shout out in our prediction segment who had the best LSU Texas A&M prediction. You guys aren't going to want to miss this. It's pretty good, actually. The guy didn't even leave a score, but I think he nailed the game. So we'll shout him out a little bit later. Okay, we're going to start our breakdown when LSU has the ball. You guys mentioned this a little bit. Frank Wilson wants to run the ball. Joe Sloan's out. Brian Kelly's out. Frank Wilson's come in and said, we're going to run the ball. The great irony, one of the great ironies of this season and of the Brian Kelly tenure, as you said, Reed, is they freaking figured out how to run the football, which is what everybody thought was missing, and Brian Kelly gets fired.
There was the whack-a-mole again. You figure out the run game, but you collapse on defense, and special teams, collapses as well. So that was the Brian Kelly era in a nutshell, man. One problem gets solved, and then two more pop up at the same time.
But to that point, Harlem Berry does look good. And if you look at Alabama's defensive numbers, they've been much, much, much better against the pass than they have been against the run. They have not been great against the run, which is surprising because they've been playing from ahead most weeks. So the fact is that there probably is a little bit of opportunity here for LSU to try to establish the run. maybe win time of possession, try to pull an upset that way.
Yeah, Alabama is one of the best teams in the country against the pass and throwing the football, but the run game on both sides of the ball is probably their weakness. And speaking to LSU's run game, like they're last in the SEC in rushing attempts, and it's like not that close. Like they only have 225 in the season. The next lowest team's at 252. So they just don't run the ball enough, and I think you're going to see that change. That's one of the main reasons why I think they've been pushing this change so hard to just get them just to run the ball and to show more balance, because like Brian Kelly kept on talking about it, and then Joe Sloan just refused to do it.
Yeah, especially because the offensive line hasn't been nearly as good enough as it needs to be in pass protection to keep Garrett Nussmeier upright. So the more that he's dropping back to pass, the more pressure he's facing, the more difficult it is for him to complete passes. It feels like, everything in the last few weeks, everything has been difficult for LSU on offense. And one of the ways to make things easier for yourself as an offense is to run the ball effectively. And so we haven't seen LSU do that in a large sample size, as Koki mentioned, throughout the whole game, and stick to it and really commit to it and make it the bread and butter of your offense. But in the little sample size that we have, it has been pretty decent the last few weeks. So can you extrapolate that and make it a big part of your offense? And can you keep that efficiency throughout the duration of an entire game?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the closer you look at it, the more you realize how much the play calling was a problem with this team, and they just couldn't string anything together. There was just a lack of synchronicity between the passing game and the run game, and there was a lack of commitment to the run game to try to make things easier for Garrett Nussmeier in the passing attack. And it situationally it seemed like things were consistently off. And I don't know. It was and sort of compound the problem with that is Brian Kelly's refusal to sort of make a change there. I mean, reportedly that argument they had on the day of his firing, it was Scott Woodward basically being like, "Hey, you gotta let this guy go," and Brian Kelly kind of pushing back on that and saying, "We gotta let these people go instead." And then that ended up being costing Brian Kelly's job eventually. So. It was kind of a wild sequence. It kind of showed that, he kind of went down with the ship, and the ship was Joe Sloan. So I don't know. I just feel like they need to run the ball more and just be a lot more, even in their offensive approach.
Who gets more carries, Harlan Berry or Caden Durham?
Harlan Berry.
He got more against A&M. Yeah.
It was trending in that direction before the A&M game, and I think you saw officially that shift in the A&M game. So I'd expect him to start and get the most carries. He ran really well against Texas A&M in the first half. He only touched the ball once in the second half, but he was pretty good. He showed exactly what you'd expect him to see. Once you brought him in as a recruit, so 5-star recruit, one of the best running backs in the country. It's just, I think Frank Wilson said that he's added around 20 pounds since the start of preseason camp, which is huge for his development and for his ability to stay on the field and pass pro and do those kinds of things that LSU needs him to do. He looks like a completely different player than he did in the preseason, Koki.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's their best option at running back because he has sort of the juice, the speed, the explosiveness that they haven't really had at that position in years.
You saying the Berry has the juice? See, that was you.
No, that was you.
That was you.
No.
I'm just saying.
This is the third time you've done this in 2 days.
It's been a lot of bad
or 3 days.
All right.
Time.
We talked about Michael Van Buren and the possibility of seeing him. Garrett Nussmeier is still a starter. I mean, he's obviously. Do you expect anything different out of Nuss and to see the passing game called differently? He's had another bye week. If there's still injury concerns, I mean, do we expect anything different out of Garrett Nussmeier?
I don't know. I think you're still going to see a guy who's going to try to get the ball out pretty quickly, and he's going to try to just try to get easy completions, whether it's screens or short passes. That's been what the LSU offense has been this season, and I don't see a way that you can change that in a week and a half with a new coach. So, yeah, I think he has that ability to throw downfield in him, but I'm not sure the LSU offense does this season, regardless of what the coaching changes about the offense.
Well, if they run the ball better, that'll help. But this Alabama defense is really well equipped to stop something to stop that deep passing attack too. I mean, this is one of the best passing defenses in the nation. I mean, they're second in the SEC in yards allowed. They have more interceptions allowed. They have more interceptions than touchdowns allowed in the passing game this season, Alabama. So it kind of gives you an idea of how. I mean, they got a pretty veteran secondary. It's a good team. I mean, their pass rush is fine, not great. But it's the secondary that's really, really a strength for this team. Sort of like LSU. Their defense is kind of similar to LSU's in a couple different ways.
Great time to transition into the other side of the ball. When Alabama's on offense, LSU's faced some good quarterbacks this year, some guys who will be NFL players in Lenore Sellers, D.G. Lagway, Kate Klubnik, Marcel Reed. Ty Simpson might be better than all of them, at least at just purely passing. He is, I believe, third in the Heisman odds right now behind Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza, which means he's, at this point, the top quarterback in the SEC. He has tremendous touch on some of his passes. This is really strength on strength. Alabama's passing offense, not just Simpson, but those great receivers they've got against this great LSU secondary.
He's a very polished passer, and he's very good in the middle of the field. And those are two signs that you're looking for if you're an NFL talent evaluator looking for a quarterback and trying to project his success to the next level. He's very, very polished and well-rounded as a quarterback. We thought that Garrett Nussmeier might be in this conversation of, first-round pick, top 10 pick, kind of franchise quarterback guy at the start of the season, but it looks like Ty Simpson is going to be the guy coming out of the SEC who's going to be in those conversations in the spring. So he is that good. He's a really huge part of what the Alabama offense has been able to do, and Kalen DeBoer has been playing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great anticipation passer, really good deep ball. Someone who understands the structure of that offense really, really well, who fits Ryan Grubb's offense really, really well, much better than Jalen Miller last year. Even though Grubb wasn't the coordinator last season, it was the same sort of offense, but they needed a much more accurate and consistent passer, someone who understood, offensive and defensive concepts better, and that's kind of where Ty Simpson's at. Son of a head coach sort of guy, but he can move around a little bit too. He's not going to beat LSU with his legs the same way Reed and Sellers could. And Sellers gave him a lot of issues when it was the right structure. Pavia, same way, right? Where if he had enough pieces around the mobile guy, they could really hurt you. But that's not. That's not totally the case of Alabama, because Simpson can extend plays with his legs, but he's not going to beat you necessarily with his legs. So,
and that's why I think this matchup, Ty Simpson's a better quarterback than all of those guys. I think he's having a better season, but the matchup here is a little bit better for the LSU defense because he doesn't have that dual threat component to his game. Like, he's not going to be the guy who gets out and runs like a 4-4, like Marcel Reed or some of these other guys do. So
he's not going to Diego Pavia freelance his way around.
So that's not his game, and that's something that the LSU defense can take advantage of, but only if the pressure can get home. It's been a problem for the last few weeks. Blake Baker loves to blitz. He loves to send extra pressure, but if that pressure does not get home, does not get to the quarterback, then the LSU defense is in a really vulnerable position because they're usually playing man coverage on the back end. And if you get the quarterback outside the pocket, it can cause all kinds of problems, as we saw Diego Pavia and Marcel Reed do. So the biggest key, I think, for the LSU defense in the last month of the season is making sure that the pressure actually gets to the quarterback, because if it doesn't get there, then it's a problem.
Yeah, and it's funny. We talked earlier in the show about the betting line and how it had moved so much throughout the season. To me, the biggest reason is the quarterback plays. Ty Simpson is almost body snatched what we thought Garrett Nussmeier would be. He's been the elite quarterback, the Heisman contender, the one who can beat you with almost any throw, and just mobile enough to make you have to think about it, where Nussmeier has been the inconsistent one. And obviously injury may be part of that, but it just hasn't been good enough on that side. So that's Alabama's offense. We are going to move into our predictions, but first a quick trip around the SEC. It's kind of a slow week, a lot of bye weeks out there. Georgia goes to Mississippi State, which is coming off of its first SEC win in a couple of years, and so maybe upset watch for Georgia. And then the other big one would be undefeated Texas A&M goes to Mizzou.
Yep. That's going to be interesting. I mean, Missouri was very competitive with Alabama. They probably should have won the Vanderbilt game, but the problem is Missouri is running out of freshman third string quarterback, but who actually looked decent against Vanderbilt though. So that game's going to be worth watching at the very least. And the Georgia Mississippi State game. I mean, I get the best case for Mississippi State is this is kind of like a sandwich spot for Georgia, and that they get the rivalry game last week, and then next week they play Texas, and this game is sort of sandwiched in between, and it's like, all right, how seriously are they taking the sandwich game? So those are kind of things to watch heading into.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that LSU Alabama got the prime time slot, but then I looked at the slate this week and I realized that it isn't all that great, just because there's so many.
I mean, what should
teams
have got the prime time slot,
days.
if we're being honest, is BYU Texas Tech. It sounds silly, but that's a top 10 matchup right now.
Yeah, but in terms of the SEC, it's not great. Florida is at Kentucky. It's just. I'm trying to find something interesting here.
Speaking of interim coach and maybe another team that might have an interim coach.
I mean, to me, the Texas A&M game, if Texas A&M wins, they've got basically a foot and a half in the playoff now. Yeah. I mean, even if you were to lose to Texas at the end of the season, can't remember if they have another difficult game in there or not, but the chances of them losing 2 of their last 3 seems very slim.
Yeah.
Next week, much more interesting. Like Texas and Oklahoma were the first 2 teams out of the playoff in the first CFP rankings of the year, and they have big-time games on the road next week. Oklahoma at Alabama, Texas at Georgia. That one's going to be juicy. So we'll see. Both those teams are off this week. And that's the other thing. Alabama's got that huge game against Oklahoma to look forward to as well. And so, how do they perform?
And Ole Miss is playing the Citadel. So that's the one non-conference game. I don't think too many people are going to be watching that one.
That will take place. We'll just leave it at that.
A game that will happen.
Yes, it will happen. Okay, into our Alabama LSU predictions. I mentioned this earlier, but I have to give a shout out to YouTube user at DeadeyeJed1126, who said, I'm paraphrasing here, essentially that Texas A&M was going to take LSU to the woodshed, and it was because they didn't have Tommy Moffitt anymore.
Oh, wow.
Which is like, I mean, I checked. He wrote that the day before the game. But the fact that was what he wrote, you didn't even leave a score prediction, but I got to shout that out.
Dead-Eye Jed, what do you know?
Yeah.
Dead-Eye Jed, what do you see?
Are you actually Tommy Moffitt? Or his brother or something like?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Dead-Eye Jed? Right?
Good effort.
No,
yeah.
That's not.
Leave the dad jokes to the professional.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, all right.
Did not work.
I thought it worked. I don't know. I disagree.
It started out well. I'll give you that. All right, Alabama LSU predictions. Perrin Keys is he's listening to this episode and cackling. By the way, he loves his dad jokes.
Mr. Perrin.
All right. Wilson and Rab are not here. They both have the Crimson Tide. Wilson expecting a bit of a blowout, 35-17 Alabama. Ooh. Scott a little closer, has LSU covering the spread at 27-20 Alabama. Koki Riley, what say you?
31-21. I'm kind of splitting the difference between those two guys. I think it's going to be a 2-score game, but I think it's going to be relatively competitive for a part of it, especially if Alabama can't get any sort of run game going, and LSU can just sort of eat clock with its own rushing attack. If LSU can run the ball, they can stay within some sort of striking distance in this game. But I just think being on the road in Tuscaloosa, if this game was in Tiger Stadium, I would actually be kind of open to the idea of them pulling off an upset. But the fact that it's on the road kind of kills that for me, combined with all the other strengths that Alabama has and how consistent Alabama has been since week 1.
I think Alabama's going to win. It's just a matter of whether LSU can cover or not. I picked LSU to lose 28-21, so I have them covering that spread. I just think they'll play with more energy now that they have the interim coach Frank Wilson. I think they'll get that bump that we often see from teams. They come out the week after the coach is fired and they just have a little more energy and aggression, and they can stay in games like that. But I just don't think LSU has enough talent. It's not enough. It's not a very well-rounded team, and that's going to be a challenge to beat such a good, well-rounded team like Alabama on the road.
You guys know I've been the contrarian all year long. I couldn't quite do it. I do have LSU keeping this a game. I got Alabama winning 26-23.
Alabama has been your team since the start.
They have been. Now, having said that, Alabama has been impressive since the Florida State loss. It's not like they've been blowing the doors off of teams. They beat Vandy by 16, but that was like a game where Vandy turned it over.
Though.
Yeah, they have played a lot of good. They had to win it at the end against Georgia. They did beat Tennessee fairly impressively. We know they went to South Carolina and really had to battle to come back in that game.
They beat 4 ranked teams in a span of 4 weeks since the first time an SEC team has ever done that. So that's really
impressive consistency from them. They're not some juggernaut though. Is my point. Like they're not like number one in the team in the country with a bullet. You're going to go in there and just get annihilated. And this LSU team has talent. And now that they kind of have a fresh start with Frank Wilson, I don't know how it's going to go for the rest of the season, but I think for this week you get an A+ effort from LSU, and I think they make a game out of it, but ultimately fall short.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there.
So that is our take. Leave your score prediction in the comments below. Deadeye Jed aside, you do have to leave a score. We usually go with the closest score. I just thought that was so good I had to shout it out. The Tommy Moffitt reference, just put it over the top.
Yeah, he's a listener. He knows his stuff. He knows LSU football really well.
That's right. So that is going to do it for our show. We will have a post-game show for you Saturday night after the LSU-Alabama game. We'll see how that goes. But you can tune in, win or lose, and we can just talk coaching search the whole time if LSU loses, and that's what you want to do. We can do that. So for our producer, Courtney Lawrence, he's Koki Riley. He's Reed Darcy. I'm Zach Ewing. Thank you for watching.